Greetings. I'm going to do a deep dive on the lost crewed submersible that OceanGate has lost around the Titanic's wreckage shipwreck site. As of Sunday afternoon yesterday, the crew here has lost contact with their mothership, and they are lost in the Atlantic somewhere around the Titanic site. And again, I just want to send my thoughts and prayers to everybody affected by this tragedy, because there is a very slim possibility that the folks aboard this submarine, the 5 people on this submarine, are still alive. Just a few things I've learned from listening to the Coast Guard briefing from today, June 19th. It happened around 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is video, while I'm speaking over the voiceover, this is video of the sub from the company that built it. And you can find more of these videos on their YouTube channel and their website, along with more information on their sub. We're also going to look at some images from James Cameron's Titanic movie. So there's the sub that they showed in that, and some CGI images that they used to create the sub in that movie, which we can see here. Highly recommend watching it. It was a movie that James Cameron made to generate cash to fund his own ocean exploration adventures. When you're trying to get a submersible down to 12,000 feet depth, which is approximately the depth of the Titanic, it is very, very expensive. And that cost hasn't dropped dramatically over, the last 20 years. It's still very expensive. So James Cameron made a movie with a love story that did very well, and that helped give him the cash to support this hobby. Well, there's another company called OceanGate, which does commercial expeditions, and they've built a sub that will travel down to a depth of 12,000 feet, and people can buy tickets on that sub. It also does other things. It's used for research. Again, here I'm just driving around their website, and I'd encourage folks who are interested in learning more to take a look at this website to learn more about this organization. The OceanGate sub that has been lost is called the Titan, and if you Google OceanGate Titan specs, you can find the spec sheet for this sub. I'm going to read some of those specifications now. Seating: 5-person capacity, 1 pilot plus 4 crew. Depth: 4,000 meters, 13,123 feet. Dimensions: 22 feet by 9.2 feet by 8.3 feet, or 670 centimeters by 280 centimeters by 250 centimeters. Payload: 658 kilograms, or 1,510 pounds. Weight: 9,525 kilograms, or 21,000 pounds. Speed: 3 knots. Propulsion: 4 interspaced electric thrusters, 2 vertical, 2 horizontal. Life support: 96 hours for a crew of 5, which means that this crew, if for some reason they still have life support, which is very unlikely, speaking frankly, they would only have about 60 hours left. Navigation: Teddy Line Blue View 2D sonar, Teledyne Doppler velocity log, INS/USBL. Not exactly sure what that means, but I'll put a link to this spec sheet in the comments below, and if you know, please let us know. Lighting: 4 deep sea powered lights, LED sea lights, 40,000 lumens total output. Cameras: external subsea imaging iCam, Rayfriend 4K camera, 3-axis cameras. I'm wondering if those cameras have solid state hard drives that are protected, because if those were recovered, we could learn a lot about what happened. But there's a chance that this, 22-foot sub lost in the middle of the Atlantic, even if it's close around the Titanic site, may never be found. Other items listed in the other category of the spec sheet: 2G robotics dynamic underwater laser scanner, open parentheses ULS-500 Pro. So if the tube of the sub again is about 9.2 feet wide, or 280 centimeters. So, which, looking at the picture, it looks smaller than that, because people are sitting against the wall. It also has a launch platform, which we saw at the beginning of this video, where they'd sink that launch platform about 30 feet underwater and then let it launch right off of that. And that means it wouldn't have the risk of having to launch in heavy seas, because it would be underwater, and waves, like the conditions that are in the water now, or the waves are 36 feet, wouldn't affect it, because it'd have no power when you're 30 meters deep or 30 feet deep. Here we're looking at some images of the Titanic, which has spawned this commercial venture. Without this ship and what's become mythology behind it, there would be no commercial interest in sending a submersible 12,000 feet underneath the Atlantic to look for it. That's a shot of the actual captain, and note the striking resemblance to the actor who was cast to play him in the movie Titanic. Other things to note, within submarines, I mentioned this a little bit in my first video, but when a submarine loses contact, that is very bad, and it's similar to like a space station or a spaceship coming back through atmosphere and losing contact. There's basically no chance of finding it, even though the Coast Guard is searching on air with cameras and search equipment on aircraft. They're searching with sonar buoys. They're using the mothership to search the water column. The probability of finding this thing, it is like a needle in the ocean. It is just a massive. If they were only searching the surface, it would be a lot easier, quite frankly. But they have a big surface area and a huge depth. So if you think of a surface area of 12,000 feet in depth, that's a lot of space. So, or 4,000 meters is 13,123 feet. So that just gives you an idea of how deep we're talking here, and how just immense the pressure could be. All right, so here's some footage, archive footage. You can find this on the Titanic's Wikipedia page of the people who survived, and you can just see what life over 100 years ago looked like in the United States, where a lot of vehicles are still horse-drawn. A couple other notes on just submarines and questions the general audience may have in regards to why a submarine can't just be driven to the bottom of where the Titanic is and a search be put on right in that location. And the reason is that modern military submarines, for example, say the U.S. military or the Russian military was just going to send a sub there, they really can't go much below the 500 to 800 meter range, or let's just call that 1,500 to 2,600 feet range. So there's some depth constraints there for those types of submarines. So even if we knew exactly where this sub was at, or the wreckage of it was at, you couldn't just drive a submarine there and pick it up, for example. Now, that said, The deepest recorded record for a manned submersible dive was in 1960, and this dive was in the Marianas Trench, the deepest point known on Earth, and that was at approximately 10,916 meters, or 35,814 feet. And for that operation, they basically put a human in a gigantic steel drum, just like so much steel, and lowered him like a fishing weight to the bottom of the ocean on a almost on a 36,000 foot cable, and then winched him back up. So that's what that looked like. Again, there's no easy way, even if we knew exactly where the submarine was, to rescue it or recover it, and the probability that anybody survives, sadly, is extremely low. These relatively high resolution images you're seeing now are taken from this exact sub that is missing, and this exact model. They may have manufactured more than one. These images are about 5 years old. You can find them on YouTube if you search for the company's name in YouTube, and you can see more of this content. They say in this video that their sub holds 5 people, which is more than any sub that's been to the Titanic multiple times. And it's got higher definition cameras. Here's a shot of what the sub looks like from the interior with the 4 people in the frame. So the 5th person is taking the photograph, and it looks like you can see a computer monitor in the background. In any case, that's all I got for you today. My thoughts and prayers go out to the crew members who are on this sub who have been lost in the Atlantic, and my thoughts and prayers are with their families.